I heard some things and I saw some things that was disturbing to me. That somebody sent me the video, I looked at it, and it was Cam and Mase, and here they go laughing again about the security the night Big lost his life, which was disturbing.
Because, you know, last time I saw him, his eyes were still open. You know, he was just looking up, you know, just looking like.
What if the man who was supposed to protect the notorious B.I.G. the night he lost his life was never just a witness, but a target himself?
Didn't say nothing, didn't yell nothing. Just pop, 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 pop. Everybody got down in the truck.
And what if the rapper he's warning right now, Mase, wasn't even supposed to make it out of that night either? That's the haunting question shaking hip-hop to its core after former Bad Boy bodyguard Gene Deal came back with a chilling message, not for fans, but aimed directly at Mase and Camron. What started as some harmless laughs on their talk show about the Bad Boy days has turned dark fast.
And the reason why it was disturbing with me because I was there and I know exactly what happened.
A simple joke about the past just reopened one of hip-hop's deepest wounds. A reminder that the ghosts from the 90s never really left. Mase and Cam were cracking up, talking old contracts, industry rumors, and Diddy's never-ending legal mess. But when Gene Deal caught that clip, he wasn't laughing. He was locked in. He went live, staring straight at the camera, voice cold, warning everybody to stop playing with names that still carry weight. It didn't sound like entertainment. It sounded like survival. And that's when the internet exploded. Within hours, the live stream went viral. Fans, bloggers, even industry vets started whispering, was Gene Deal giving a warning, or was he sending a message from something buried deep inside hip-hop's history?
Without that. And then us coming up, 50 and everybody, what you made think they get bulletproof trucks for?
Gene's name always been tied to mystery. Back in 1997, he was on Diddy's security team in LA the very night Biggie was taken from us. He claims he personally warned Diddy not to show up at the Vibe after party at the Peterson Automotive Museum because, in his words, someone was hunting. Now that line alone has everybody's skin crawling. Diddy brushed him off. Yo, Eugene, I don't want to hear it. That's how Gene Deal remembered it. And that single moment changed everything. Minutes later, Biggie left the party. And by 12:45 a.m., one of hip-hop's greatest voices was gone forever. Gene never stopped saying his warning was real, and now people are finally asking, why would a man ignore a direct alert that his best friend might be a target, unless he already knew something? From that point on, everything started looking less like coincidence and more like a pattern. The FBI actually listed Gene Deal as a credible witness in Biggie's case. They interviewed him multiple times, even years after the trail went cold. But by 2005, Diddy found out Gene had been talking to the feds, and just like that, his career inside Bad Boy was done. Quietly fired, removed from security contracts, and completely shut out. Gene later said, in that world, people don't like talkers, and he wasn't lying. He wasn't the first one they pushed out. He was just the only one who made it out alive.
Mase came back from that game. He let me know, and he let Puff know that he was good. They wanted Puff and Big dead.
Then years later, in 2018, Gene came back swinging, making headlines again after revising a key part of his story. At first, he said members of the Nation of Islam played a role in Biggie's passing, supposedly working with people inside LA law enforcement. But then in 2023, he flipped the script completely. On his own platform, Gene claimed that Mase, his former label mate, was the one who pulled the trigger. The accusation was wild. Mase himself called into the show, heated, arguing live. But the craziest part wasn't the shouting. It was the inconsistency. How can a man say he wants justice while changing his story over and over again? Unless someone made him switch it up. Behind all the noise and headlines sits something way darker, a hidden web of names investigators never wiped off their lists. One of them is Amir Muhammad, also known as Harry Bill, the man long rumored to be the real suspect. His connection to LAPD officer David Mack, who later got caught up in the infamous Rampart corruption scandal, has never been fully explained. Here's where it gets even wilder.
she was, I think, understanding clearly what had happened. And I think she was starting to see that other people were responsible than who she previously had believed.
Mac owned a black Impala, the exact kind of car witnesses said pulled up beside Biggie's SUV that night. And get this, Muhammad wasn't just his friend, he was the godfather to Mac's children. Federal documents hinted that these two might have been working together, part of what one retired detective straight up called an inside job with police protection. That changes everything. Suddenly, this story doesn't look like some rap beef gone wrong. It looks like a full-blown operation, possibly protected by people in uniform. And that's why what Mase said years later hit different. In 2023, he claimed that right after Biggie lost his life, he was trapped in a Los Angeles hotel, surrounded by 70 Bloods, and couldn't leave until Gene Deal came to rescue him. That claim alone had everyone's jaws on the floor, but Gene fired back instantly, saying Mase was never there, and made the whole scene up just to create an alibi. So the question is, if Gene's telling the truth, why did Mase wait 26 years to drop that story?
Because Mase want to laugh and lie about the situation. Let's get into it, bro. I want to get into this. I want to tell you that Mase had a duty.
And why does his version keep changing? From being hunted, to being warned, to not even being there at all?
Mase had a duty as a label mate to tell Chris, these dudes want you.
Every retelling pushes him further away from that night. And now, Gene's latest warning connects those old contradictions to something happening right now. And it's got hip-hop fans losing sleep. In his latest warning, Gene Deal came out swinging. He blasted Mase and Camron for laughing about security and leaving key names out of their stories. Gene claimed Mase had a duty that night, a duty to warn Biggie about the threats he'd allegedly heard earlier. According to Gene, some Crip members at a celebrity basketball game had been saying they wanted Diddy and Biggie out of the way.
I used to be hurt because I knew the people that she had around her was Puff Boys. So we could never connect like that. So only time I tried to connect with Miss Wallace is when she needed me and she used Perry Sanders to call me.
Mase supposedly told Diddy, but kept his mouth shut when it came to Biggie. Then Gene's tone shifted, cold, bitter, and heavy with history. He reminded viewers, you didn't tell Big, bro, and you still didn't get the #1 spot because Diddy took it. That line hit hard for anyone who knows how the old bad boy hierarchy worked. It suggested something darker, that ambition might have played a role, that Mase's silence wasn't fear, it was strategy, and that Biggie's passing opened a path someone else was meant to walk. Now, almost 30 years later, it feels like the past is alive again.
She mentioned my name. My fraternity brother, Bill Willard, was right there and said, yo, that's my fraternity brother, Gene Deal. I know him, I could call him right now. I went up to see Miss Wallace, brother. And she took me around her whole house and I seen the memorial of Big.
Diddy's facing serious federal charges. Mase has reinvented himself as a preacher turned podcaster. And Gene Deal, he's right back in the middle of it all. Once again connecting dots that most people wish would stay buried for good. In a recent documentary, Gene didn't hold back. He said the industry created Diddy's monster, that older execs taught him manipulation disguised as mentorship. If that's true, then the whole bad boy legacy might have been built on corruption, and not just any kind, but the kind that comes straight from the top levels of entertainment. Every new revelation tightens the circle around that one night in March 1997, when 2 cars left the Peterson Museum, and only one made it back intact. The more we trace the events, the clearer it becomes that Gene's message isn't about nostalgia, it's about unfinished business. Each time he speaks, another piece of that night claws its way back. His ignored warning, his mysterious firing, the missing witnesses, and now even Mase's own casual remark at Valletta Wallace's funeral this year, saying he might have visited Diddy to make sure he's good. That line alone sent chills through the crowd. That buried file had one name whispered inside it, Diddy's. According to insiders close to the investigation, those notes hinted at a trade-off between 2 of the biggest power players in hip-hop history. The claim? Suge Knight took the fall for Tupac Shakur's case, and in exchange, Diddy slipped out of scrutiny for Biggie's tragedy. Nothing's ever been proven, but just the implication alone completely flips the story we thought we knew. Two of rap's greatest losses, forever linked by silence and self-preservation.
I knew that somebody was going to die that night. Somebody was going to get shot.
Then Gene Deal dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming, this time aimed not at the past but at the present. In early 2024, he accused Diddy of learning how to make people disappear from none other than Russell Simmons. That statement alone had even the most jaded fans shook, and Gene wasn't speaking in riddles. He started listing names: Craig Mack, gone at 46, Black Rob, stroke at 51, and others who simply faded away after being close to Diddy. Gene didn't call it coincidence. He called it a pattern. He said straight up, "You don't cross Puff and keep breathing easy." Coming from a man who stood inches from the chaos, that line hit like thunder. Because when you look at it all together, Biggie, Pac, Craig Mack, Black Rob, they're all gone, broke, or silenced. And every single one of them had one thing in common: they knew too much about how Diddy moved. It sounds less like bad luck and more like a curse, a roll call of ghosts, each tied to the same empire that promised luxury but delivered destruction. Craig Mack passed in 2018, reportedly from heart failure at just 46, barely a year after preaching a sermon where he spoke about industry demons that, according to insiders, sabotaged his comeback. Black Rob followed in 2021, sick, broke, and saying on camera that Diddy owed him millions. By then, fans had already started connecting the dots. Every artist who spoke against Bad Boy seemed to either vanish or suffer, like the label had a silent rule: speak up and fade out. Now people are asking the question nobody dares to say out. Even the ones who survived didn't walk away clean. The scars ran deep, and the silence spoke louder than any diss track ever could. Take the LOX, for example. They rebelled back in 1997, demanding to be released from what insiders called a lifetime contract that basically chained them to Diddy forever. They went public shouting, "Let the LOX go," on the radio, and suddenly, like magic, their songs started vanishing from airwaves. Within months, new faces started popping up, rappers molded in the same glossy bad boy image, replacing them overnight. Coincidence? Not likely. Then there was Faith Evans, Biggie's widow. Her story still chills people to this day. Just 3 months after Biggie's passing, she was nearly seriously injured in a suspicious car crash. No charges, no closure. But whispers spread fast that she'd been planning to leave the label and take her late husband's masters with her. That move alone could have flipped the whole bad boy empire upside down.
He told me, he told Puff. He never mentioned a damn thing to Big. As his label mate, he had an obligation. As a fellow New Yorker, he had an obligation to tell Big. And I don't want to hear about no, I don't want to snitch, I don't want to rat, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Each of these incidents added another crack to the illusion of bad luck. Piece by piece, it started looking less like coincidence and more like a controlled collapse. In Gene Deal's 2024 interview, he laid it all out raw. He said Diddy wasn't born a monster, he was made one. Gene described him as the byproduct of a system that rewards silence, punishes truth, and protects wealth over loyalty.
Or you put your hand on his kid, his wife, his money, you don't know what, because for every action, there's a what?
Reaction.
There you go.
He called out names too. Andre Harrell, Russell Simmons, the very mentors who taught Diddy the game, also taught him its darkest rule: power is maintained through fear. According to Gene, this isn't just one man's pattern. It's an industry mechanism, a full-blown machine designed to reward obedience and crush anyone who dares to speak up. And machines like that don't stop running just because they're leaders in handcuffs. They simply find a new way to move. So when Gene Deal warns Mase to watch his back, he's not just talking about Ghost from 1997, he's talking about a living network that never sleeps. The hits don't stop, they just get quieter. And then there's Mase himself, the man who once called Diddy a thief live on radio in 97, then suddenly retired, vanished into the church and stayed silent for nearly 20 years. Now he's back on the mic.
It's crazy to me that these guys will be continuously always bringing that up when, one, they're not telling the truth. Two, they're not naming names. And three, and speaking of Mase, played a big part in the whole situation.
And the timing feels way too perfect. Industry vets still remember how sudden Mase's exit really was. 1 minute he was on top of the world, dropping hits, and the next, gone. His departure came right after a heated clash over unpaid royalties. Publicly, he said he wanted to find faith, but behind closed doors, some insiders whisper he was given a choice: walk away quietly or never walk away at all. Back then, in the ruthless record business of the late 90s, retirement didn't always mean peace. It meant survival. So when Mase made his comeback in 2019, everyone thought it was a redemption arc, a man returning stronger than ever. But if Gene Deal is right, that return wasn't bravery, it was recklessness. Now, Deal's latest warnings are directly tied to Diddy's crumbling legal empire. As prosecutors keep digging through his past, Gene claims old files are being pulled out of storage. Documents naming not just bodyguards and drivers, but artists who might have been near that fateful intersection in 1997. And here's where things get twisted. Gene says Mase wanted Biggie's spot, but Diddy took it instead. If that's true, the motive wasn't jealousy, it was manipulation. Someone needed a scapegoat, and Mase, young, ambitious, and loyal to a fault, fit the role perfectly. The man many thought could have been a suspect might have actually been set up from day one. That's what makes Mase's 70 Blood story even more suspicious. Why drop that detail in 2023 after decades of silence, especially right when Diddy's empire started to crack? Gene says it's an alibi dressed up as nostalgia, a way to shift the danger onto faceless gang members and away from the real power players in those boardrooms. And that's the dangerous part, because that story keeps Mase alive in the narrative, but it also keeps him visible. And visibility is risky when old investigators start digging with fresh eyes. The more Mase talks, the more people start remembering. He wasn't just another bad boy artist. He was one of the last people to see Biggie before his final night, and now he's one of the only ones still breathing to talk about it. Meanwhile, Gene Deal's credibility, once laughed off as bitterness, is suddenly growing in the most unexpected places. After years of being dismissed, his claims are now matching up with pieces of sealed testimony from long-buried investigations. Even retired detectives are starting to admit it. Gene was always considered a solid witness, the kind who remembered the details everyone else forgot. And when he says Diddy's empire was protected by LAPD insiders connected to the Rampart corruption scandal, it's getting a lot harder to ignore. Those same officers were later caught moonlighting for Death Row Records. If that connection ever gets confirmed, it ties both coasts, both tragedies, and both moguls together in one long, twisted chain of betrayal and cover-ups. At the core of it all, money and loyalty, the two things that built Bad Boy and might be the very things that destroy it. Back in 1997, Mase's fight with Diddy was painted as a dispute over a few million in royalties, but insiders claim it was really about control. Control of masters, publishing, and power. When Mase lost that fight, he didn't just lose his money, he lost ownership of his voice. The moment he stepped out of the spotlight, Diddy became the sole storyteller of the Bad Boy legacy. And now, with federal agents digging through 30 years of contracts, that old paperwork might resurface, not just as proof of exploitation, but as evidence of something much bigger. Whispers say Diddy didn't just buy loyalty, he bought silence. He made people sign their silence in ink. And not everyone who signed made it home safe. When you trace the timeline, it all starts to tighten like a noose around one circle. 1997, Biggie's gone. 2005, Gene Deal gets fired after talking to the FBI. 2023, Mase pops back up through comedy and podcasts. 2024, Diddy indicted. Gene resurfaces. The warnings begin again. Every event stacking like dominoes, just waiting for that final push. So when Gene says, "I told him before and I'm telling him again," it doesn't sound like advice anymore. It sounds like prophecy. And that brings us to the question everyone's too scared to say out loud. What if Mase wasn't just caught in the crossfire? What if he was supposed to be in that Suburban the night Biggie was taken? What if one small change, one different seat could have made those headlines carry a different name? That thought alone explains why Gene Deal's voice shakes every time he mentions Mase, and why his message now sounds less like protection and more like a warning. Because if the full truth ever comes out, somebody's gonna have to answer for it. And history shows the last loose end is always the most dangerous one. Maybe that's why Gene's whole energy feels different now. He's not begging for peace, he's bracing for impact. He even said recently, the people who trained Puff taught him everything. And now, that same energy circling back like karma finally catching up. Those words hit harder now as federal investigators dig through Diddy's empire piece by piece, while Mase tries to laugh it off on camera, making jokes that sound more nervous than funny. And online, the internet won't let it rest. Fans keep replaying that old clip of Gene saying, if you go to that party tonight, one of y'all won't make it home. Back then, it sounded like superstition. Now it sounds like prophecy. Gene Deal didn't warn Mase just to protect him. He warned him because he knows what happens to the last man standing when the truth starts to surface. And in hip hop, the truth doesn't always set you free. It can weigh you down with everything you thought was finished. So what do we believe now? Was Mase spared that night, or was he marked from the start? Drop your thoughts below, because this story is far from finished. Do you think Gene's warning is real, or just fear resurfacing after decades of silence? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Cause trust, the streets always start talking long before the headlines catch up.